Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here as always with my good friend Dan Wiseman. Dan, Aston Villa, but just we're just on a bloody roll at the moment, aren't we? We're on a bit of a roll, and I say it quietly, but I mean it's a great result and performance against Spurs, and it puts us in a really strong position going into our final game against Manchester United, mate, doesn't it? Comprehensive 2-0 win. And I've got to say, it feels good that we've managed to play Spurs. And despite them being injury ridden and, resting players for their final, we beat them pretty comprehensively. And it's been a while since we've done that.
You're absolutely right. Clean sheet. It was all there, mate. It was all there. Just a very controlled, measured performance. A few moments, a few little scares and stuff like that. We maybe looked a little bit more kind of open on the counter than maybe we'd have liked. And I think you really saw in those moments just how short of confidence Spurs are, particularly Heung-min Son. Like, just looked like it was Heung-min Son there in full effect right up until he entered the final third, and then you can just see that like they've just got they just seem really devoid in confidence. Things seem to break down, and I think that kind of helped maintain the clean sheet, to be honest with you, mate. But hey, 2-0 is 2-0. You'll never catch me complaining, and it's set up this pretty incredible finish where you've got third down to seventh in the Premier League, separated by a single point.
This is mad, isn't it? This is like I know the league's been done for a while. I know it was only officially sort of wrapped up a couple of weeks ago, wasn't it, with that game against Spurs as well for Liverpool. But the race for Europe has been exhilarating, and if we weren't in it, mate, I think I could probably appreciate it a little bit more. But we're kind of here we are. We found ourselves in this position, and we can get on to Europe and all of that a little bit later on, mate. This game. First of all, right, what one thing I do want to say, I'm absolutely bored of everybody booing Cash whenever he does a Cruyff term. I'm really bored of it, and I think he is too, because there was a point, I think it was around the 60th minute or something like that. He's up the pitch, comes back inside. Yes, it's incredibly frustrating that he does it so often, but there was like you could tell that Cash was really like upset and annoyed with the crowd, and it's one of them things. It's like instead of sort of jeering and or groaning whenever Cash does it, why don't we do something? Why don't we do a chant? Why don't we do something? Why don't we make light of it rather than sort of get aggy with it? Like maybe we do the Polish Cafu chant. I don't know, but I think after his comments of the week,
The Polish Cruyff.
Polish Cruyff, yeah, exactly. Yeah, let's just change the name. Why not? Let's just change the name.
More happy,
Polish
yeah.
Cruyff. I totally get the frustrations, but like I said, after his interview of the week, and again, for the sake of transparency, Cash is somebody I've criticised before, but when a player comes out to the media and says like, "Can you get off our back a little bit? We're trying our best." Like, the least we could do is give them that.
Yeah, he was pretty vocal, wasn't he? And kind of just like saying that, he's very aware of the online discourse, let's say.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think he
do
mentioned.
you remember? This is slightly off topic, but do you remember? I don't know if you've seen this guy. He's called Ben Talks Football or something like that on TikTok.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know the
Okay,
guy.
yeah. So I mean, you could do a whole podcast on that guy. I think he rubs people up the wrong way, but his content it is what it is. Um, he did a combined 11 when we played Bayern Munich that went semi-viral on TikTok. I don't think it was even his video. I think it was like he'd done it for another content creator, and he was in it and reposted it and all that. And it was Cash or the Bayern Munich fullback Bowie. Now I don't know who Bowie is. I'm gonna put my hands up. I work in football. I don't know who Bowie is. I've never heard of the guy. And this guy was like, "Oh, Bowie, 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 Bowie. I've never heard of him, but Bowie, Matty Cash is shit." And then there was this like DM exchange between Cash and this Ben guy. And I think he thought he was doing something because he was like standing on business and being principled in his eyes, and being like, no, I think you're shit, mate. But I find it really cringe. But also, it's like the point I was getting to there was, you're right. He sees it. He's literally beefing with people on TikTok
Yeah.
about Cash. So he seems very self-conscious, which isn't the best thing when you're a footballer, but like I think we have given him a bit of a hard time.
I agree, mate. I agree. It's a bit long been my stance on Matty Cash. I don't think he's a world beater. I don't think he's the best right back in the world or anything like that. But my stance has long been, if Matty Cash is the weak link in your team, you're not doing too badly. Yeah, he's a very competent top half Premier League footballer, I would say. There's a lot of clubs in the league that would happily welcome him into their starting 11. And so, yeah, like I think if he's the one player now that we look at in this lineup and say, yeah, like you're probably due an upgrade, you're not doing too badly.
Yeah, and like I think he's had a really good back half of the season as well. I think he's been reliable when we've needed him to be. And when you look at the fact, I know he's been injured on and off, but when you look at Bagard's playing there, when you look at Garcia playing, Garcia's not got a look in. He's not even getting minutes off the bench. So, he goes to show how well he's playing. And in this game specifically, he was the target. He was always going to be the target. Heung-min Son on that side, they were looking to play that out ball there every single time. And he was under a lot of pressure because he's been asked to do a lot. He's been asked to be so far up the pitch, be creative, be attacking, and there were times where it would either be Kamara or Konsa that would have to come and track back because Kashi was so far up the pitch. But I thought he put in a real shift in this game, and I mean we've seen before in games how easily Heung-min Son has had his number, haven't we, mate? So the fact that he didn't in this game is obviously a great thing. Two unlikely scorers in this one, mate. Two
Very
very
nice.
unlikely scorers. I mean, I say unlike Esri pops up 2, 3, 4 goals a season. Nice little nutmeg assist from Ollie as well. When the cross was played in, I can't remember who Ollie was next to at the back post, but I'm thinking these two are going to be bashing heads here. Ollie gets a nice little flick on Esri with the finish. Came at the right time. It felt like up until this point we had a lot of possession and we were creating lots of chances. But Spurs were really frustrating, weren't they, mate? They were really packing the box. Not to sound like Ruben Diaz the other week, but it was very anti-football, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's like I do. It's just a crazy this is a Villa podcast, right? So I'm not going to waste too much airtime, but like just their like approach to like the end of the season, like damn and United, it's just nuts. Like I almost was like, you almost feel sorry for the away fans. Do you know what I mean? Like making this like trip up on a Friday night, just knowing full well that like if you gave your gaffer the opportunity to throw this game, just forfeit 3 points, hand them to Villa, we won't bother making the trip. They probably would. It's like it's nuts. Um, and yet, I actually thought that like I thought they were okay. I thought they did a good job. I thought they played with a fair bit of kind of determination. There wasn't really, as I say, like too much of a game plan. It didn't feel like it was just kind of like frustrate, make them difficult, try and break on the counter type thing. I thought Kevin Danzo was really good for them. I think he's a really good player, and yeah, like they did really really well. And it was only for a couple of moments of Asensio magic really in the first half that we were able to kind of find balls in behind that back line. There's another really nice ball in from the left wing from Amadou as well into the near post, which we kind of created a few openings. We were by far the better team. We had much better football, and despite it being 0-0 at half time, it didn't. You knew we were going to get the breakthrough eventually. It was a little bit kind of scruffy when it did come, but hey, you don't care at all. And yeah, Esri's got a habit of scoring some pretty big goals
He does.
for us,
He does.
particularly in front of the Holte end. And so yeah, like I'm really happy for him. Really, really happy for Booba. Really nice for them to get that moment, and I'm glad the goals came when it did because obviously, mate, you'll probably be able to speak to this better than me, but I think the nature of the game, the nature, as I say, the opposition kind of just wanting it done and dusted before we'd even kick the ball, felt like it was a very slow game. The atmosphere maybe was kind of reflecting that as well. So I think getting the goal when we did, getting another one not too long after, I think gave everyone a bit of a boost and meant that we were able to go out and kind of see the game out on a high. But yeah, two very, very nice goals, which is always, again, great for atmosphere. Always gets everyone going when you see, someone like Booba get on the score sheet because, you might only get one a season. So yeah, pretty cool moment for both of them. Two really, really big goals. And yeah, it was pretty comfortable from there on out.
Yeah, I think the thing with it's almost like when a team gets 10 down to 10 men and Villa like never win. It was kind of like that feeling before the game because
Yeah.
everybody, and I mean everybody across the country, had this down as a Villa win. So there was a lot of pressure here for us to go and do this, especially when you contextualize it with
A comfortable Villa win too.
yeah, oh
I think,
yeah,
yeah.
absolutely, mate, absolutely. People had us down to absolutely batter this lot, and in fairness, I think we did, but there was a lot of pressure on us to do that, with the context of needing to win to stay in the hunt for the Champions League. Because I've been saying it for weeks. It sounds like a broken record. All we can do is win our games. We'll go through the permutations a bit later on in the podcast. Don't you worry. But all we can do is win. And when you're approaching that 60-minute mark, which is around the time Esri scored, there was this kind of feeling of it's now or never. And this could quite easily have ended up as a 0-0, or even, you get that sickening feeling in the final 10 minutes when it's 0-0, and that Villa have a late goal conceded in them, and that we could easily throw this away 1-0. And that's the last thing you want to do for this Tottenham side. So the goal came at a really good time. Kamara as well. First ever Premier League goal. I think it's his first ever shot on target. I don't have the Opta numbers, but oh my God, I've seen him fly so many over the bar. I feel like we were only talking about this the other week, mate. The fact that I feel like this guy is never going to score a goal with his feet. I think he scored with his head against Stevenage or something like that. Somebody can correct me in the comments. He took it really well. He took it really well, and I was so surprised because who who is this guy? Boubacar Kamara managed to keep his head over the ball and keep the ball on the floor. It was amazing. And I think it's kind of symbolic, really, of their importance throughout the season, because they're not the names that are on the the score sheet every week. They're not the names that are grabbing the headlines every single week. But these two are without doubt two of Villa's most important players. So for them to get the goals in such a meaningful match, really, that's great. That's lovely. I do love that. Amadou Onana again, mate. What a shift he's put in as well.
Yeah. Thought he was fantastic. Thought Ian Matson had another good game. And it's kind of, you feel like he's really putting himself on a nice platform to kick on next season and kind of really make that left back spot his own. Thought Asensio had probably his best game in a little while.
Definitely.
Like obviously not the goals and assists, but it kind of, he was everywhere, was really, really creative. Felt like for a while that if we were going to get something going, it would probably go through him. And I think it's him actually that takes, as Booba comes across the box before he hits the shot, he makes a run just in front of him, and it takes Bissouma kind of out of Kamara's way. Frees that space up for him to run along the edge of the box and have that shot. And so, yeah, made that nice little decoy run that you always hear like pundits and co-commentators waxing over. So, yeah, like he was kind of like quietly brilliant, I would say, for Asensio last night. Yeah, him, Amadou, Ian, really, really good, really, really impressive. And as I say, I think it's nice to see Amadou, Ian, particularly having good games at the end of the season, because you do feel like next year is really there. Yeah,
but I think what was impressive for Matson as well is that he was sniffing out danger in this game as well. It wasn't just going forward, which is what we expect from Matson. The biggest criticisms that we've had of Matson in some of the games he's played, when you think back to Arsenal away, I think Everton, there's a few games where he you can almost directly trace a goal back to a lack of defensive action from him. He was making loads of intelligent runs. There was this one ball that was played over for Son, and Matson ran like half the length of the pitch to go and cover. I think it was from a corner. Really strong in the tackle, and as you say, this is happening at a really good time for him, because you would imagine, with the movements that we can only assume are happening in the summer, people like Dean, maybe a couple midfielders as well. When you look at the Tillemans links to Saudi and all of that, for these two to step up now, it's good news for them. It's good news for us, mate.
Yeah.
I mean, playing beside this feels like an eternity ago. I know we're obviously recording this on the Sunday night, but there's been so many games that have been played since then. Obviously, an important game played 45 minutes after we'd kicked off as well. Chelsea versus United. We really could have done with United turning up there, and there was like a disallowed goal. There was a bit of drama in that game as well, wasn't there? Newcastle have lost to Arsenal today. Fulham beat Brentford, which I think is good when you look at the fact that Fulham are going to play City on the final day as well at home. And there is a slight chance that they could play in Europe as well. On the whole, I think things have gone pretty well for Forest win as well. But I look at that and I think we needed Forest to win to keep them in it, so as they can be up for the game against Chelsea. It's one of them, isn't it? Where we're spinning loads of plates here, trying to run through all the simulations. But overall, I know I'm always badgering on saying, don't worry about the other scores. All we can do is win. But it's been a pretty good weekend overall for us, mate.
Yeah, it's all kind of going as you'd like, really. The only result that didn't was Chelsea's win against United. But you're never really going to get it all go your way. I don't maybe think City's end to the season is as cut and dry as it once was, given before the FA Cup final there was the draw at Southampton. You've then obviously got a really, really disappointing performance at Wembley. You've then got Bournemouth, obviously at home, so you would fancy them, but Bournemouth have beaten them already this season. They have their own fight going on, and it's you don't know. You don't know. And so, yeah, it's really, really interesting. They like that Forest Chelsea game on the final day is just huge. And again, it's kind of, you kind of forget that we've still got to play ourselves. We've got the small tackles like going to Old Trafford, which is really, really like, regardless, it's always been a difficult place for us to go, even through the United's kind of last decade or so of kind of mediocrity. We've still struggled to go there and get results. And so, like it's no small task. But obviously you're kind of at the point where, look, if we don't go there and win on Sunday, you kind of like maybe we didn't, you don't deserve it anyway. Like you've got to take 3 points to keep yourself in this fight. It's just the goal difference. That's the one that you look at. That +9 goal difference. Chelsea are ahead of us on +20. Newcastle ahead on +22. Brentford are the team with the closest goal difference to us. They're on +9. And so, below us as well. City +24. Forest are +13. That's the one thing that really could come back to bite us. But it's too late to kind of do anything about that now, really. You've got to go out and just get the 3 points and hope really that other results do go your way. We've got to hope that Forest win or draw. A Chelsea win at down in Nottingham is probably curtains, given that I think we work on the basis that City are going to get 6 points, but perhaps it's not as cut and dry as that.
No, it's not. It's not. And to give people a run through, I'm sure you already know, top 5. That's Champions League. It's usually 4, it's 5 because of the strong coefficient, thanks to us and Arsenal this season doing so well in the competition. That means 6th is the Europa League, so that's currently where Manchester City is at. Although in all of the projected pot posts that I'm seeing on Twitter, we're in all of the Europa League ones, and it's really like, oh no, come on, like hold on. And then we've obviously got Forest who are sat in 7th. Them and City both on 65, as you say. The goal difference is what keeps them above. So the Carabao Cup, winning the Carabao Cup grants you a Conference League place. So it's not like 7th is a Conference League spot. Newcastle have that, but obviously Newcastle are in the Champions League. Now, there is a world where Newcastle actually do fall out of the Champions League and would mean that they take the Conference League spot. It is unlikely, but it's not impossible. let me think. Right. So there's also there's a way that 8 teams can get Europe, and it's very specific, and it involves Chelsea finishing 7th and winning the Conference League, and that also relies on Newcastle finishing within the top 4, because then it bumps a Conference League spot down to whoever's in 8th place, which at the moment is currently Brentford on goal difference, but that could be any of Brentford, Brighton, Fulham, or Bournemouth, depending how results go. And if things stay as they are, it looks like there's going to be no Conference League spot that is given, because obviously Palace have gone and won the FA Cup, which is also a Europa League spot as well. So there'll be 2 teams in Europa. There's a Conference League spot potentially. No, the Conference League as it stands is there. That's seventh place. 2 Europa League spots, 5 Champions League spots. There's a lot going on here. I've pulled up the Premier League's official post about it that they've done today, and I was just telling Dan off air. It's absolutely crazy to me that they've cited there's 10 teams that can potentially get to Europe, right? But they've quoted an ESPN journalist as the source. How does the league not know themselves? Which is just absolutely crazy. So that would be, half of the Premier League playing in Europe would be absolutely crazy. So they've got, if Chelsea win the Conference League and finish 6th, and Newcastle finish in 7th, or Chelsea win the Conference League and Chelsea finish 7th, Premier League gets an extra team in Europe, and that means that there'd be 10 spots there. So top 5 plus the Europa League winner gets a spot. Obviously, that'll be the Spurs or United, whoever that is, but that's guaranteed. So there's 6 spots in Europe. But you see, I'm getting confused myself here. I just said there'd be 5 spots. There's 6 spots for the Premier League in the Champions League, but obviously one of them is a Conference League spot. 7th spot in this scenario would get the Europa League. Then you've got Palace and Chelsea in there for both winning their cup competitions, and then the Conference League spot would be bumped down to 8th. So that's pretty mad. There's a lot to comprehend here. There's a lot to comprehend, and the thing is, a lot of it doesn't affect us, but it does because we're all in the race for it. We're all in. There's so many teams that are playing against each other that will influence our battle for the top 4 and all of this, which is ridiculous. But so on the final day, I mean, this final day of fixtures, mate, is so tasty. And I mean, I swear, people aren't going to be watching these games, are they? They're just going to be scrolling and refreshing their phones, trying to get score updates. It's going to be absolutely crazy. So Fulham host City at home. Forest host Chelsea. Obviously, we go away to United. Arsenal travel to Southampton away, which you would imagine would be a win. Everton host Newcastle at home, which again could be. I mean, is that a banana skin? You'd like to think that Newcastle at home would get the job done, but it would be great if Everton could show up for us in that one. There's so much going on here, mate. There's so much going on.
It's crazy, mate. It's crazy. It all starts like if Bournemouth can go to the Etihad midweek and get a result. This thing just gets drifted into overdrive. Like that's the thing. That would blow it wide open. And so hey, let's wait and see. But yeah, if Man City, obviously they have a game in hand. If they win that game in hand, they jump all the way back up to 3rd, pushing Villa down into 6th, and crucially out of the Champions League places. So any kind of result for Bournemouth would be great. Obviously, even if it was a draw, because of that superior goal difference that I mentioned earlier, that again would bump Villa down out of the Champions League places. City would still jump up 2 places. No, they would. They would still go 3rd either way, wouldn't they? Looking at
they would. Yeah.
Correct me if so. Either way, a City, win or draw puts them all the way back up to 3rd. Villa down into 6th. So yeah, if Bournemouth, I mean, obviously wouldn't be the end of the world. I still think when all is said and done, it's that Chelsea Forest game that everything is going to swing on. But yeah, I mean, I'm just glad that when we, the last 2 times we've gotten into Europe, particularly the Conference League, the win against Brighton on the final day to get into the Conference League, I'm glad it wasn't this complicated.
Oh my God, yeah.
It's just like the final whistle going and everyone like, did we do it? No? Yeah, maybe? Do you know? Looking at Unai like, do you know? um, and so, yeah, I'm glad that it wasn't this complicated then. But you're basically looking at it: stay where we are, Champions League football next season. Drop any lower, and it's Europa League.
Yeah, I think it's always been fifth, really, hasn't it? The past few weeks, we're talking about top four, and maybe I look at Newcastle. They're too. I mean, I know they're only a point ahead, but it does feel like they are too far gone, and you would expect that. The thing is, right? I mean, it's a shame that Newcastle didn't win their game today because if Newcastle, I say a shame, it's kept them in it in terms of there's only a point between us. So of course anything can happen, but if Newcastle beat Arsenal, I mean Arsenal have a tough game. It's Southampton away. I know it's Southampton away, but they've got nothing to play for. They've got absolutely nothing to play for, nothing to lose. It's obviously not like if it was at home, you would say 100% Arsenal win, but there's like a small 2% chance that Southampton can do something here. But that would keep things interesting. Obviously, this win has kind of meant that Newcastle can't finish second now. So does that mean their season? They're going to be on the beach now. There's so much at play.
Yeah, I see your point.
There is
See your point.
there's so much at play here, but again, as I've said for weeks, all we can do is win, and I would feel a lot more confident about this if this was at Villa Park, mate, because our home
Oh,
form.
100%.
How good has that been, mate? Is it 18 and 18
Yeah, so we've
unbeaten or
we set
win?
the record. So when does that go back to? Is it Ox? I need to check. When was the last time we lost the game at home?
It's gotta be.
So it was the Arsenal defeat, the second game of the season.
That's September.
Where, yeah, so it can't. I don't think it stretches back that far. But yeah, I mean, just crazy. Like 18 games unbeaten, as you say. It's been one hell of a season, like particularly domestically. Even when you consider that stretches back through the kind of rough patch that we had, is yeah, what a campaign, mate! What a campaign, and it's always kind of emotional. Last game of the season, and I think we saw. There's a lot of kind of chatter now. I mean, Emi Martinez is kind of at the center of it all, and I suppose we shouldn't let this podcast go by without talking about that, mate. But yeah, there was a lot of discourse around Ollie, particularly on like the live broadcast as well, which I thought was interesting. Kind of like openly referencing, well, could be his last game, blah blah blah. I think we maybe saw it from a few players really. It does feel like as kind of we grow closer to the transfer window and the old transfer rumor starts to grind into gear. It feels like it's going to be a big summer. It does feel like whether we want it or not, it does feel like there's a lot of big changes coming this summer. I don't think it's going to be a case of just injecting a bit of quality in 2 or 3 places and on we go. I think this Villa team could look really, really different next season, which does naturally make me nervous. We've got such a good group here. And it doesn't feel like the time for open heart surgery on this squad, but it needs must, I guess, in this crazy PSR-driven landscape in which we live in. And so, yeah, did feel pretty tough. I think it looks all but confirmed that Emi Martinez is going to leave in some capacity. It looks like there's offers from both Saudi Arabia and clubs in Europe. There are a few outlets reporting that those clubs in Europe are Barcelona and Man United. It looks like the cash obviously in the Saudi deals is pretty eye-watering, but it looks like he favours a stay in Europe for sporting reasons. I think he would, he still feels like he's got a lot to give. He's been very open about his desire to win trophies with Villa, but will still want to do that wherever he is. I don't think anybody would begrudge him a move to Barcelona. I can't see him moving to Man United. I really, really hope that's not true. But I mean, hey, if Emi Martinez leaves at the end of the season to go and play for Barcelona, who's going to begrudge him that? Really?
Yeah.
It's you've kind of dove your hat. The greatest Villa keeper I've seen in my lifetime leaves a gaping hole that it's going to be huge for anybody to come in and fill. I don't even think Emi's had the greatest season really. I think there have been a kind of few mistakes, but just the personality that he is and how adored he is by this fan base just make that really, really tough to stomach, actually. It looked like he had a hard time accepting it as well. And I do think it's worse when it just nobody seems to want it, and you kind of see the place that it's put Douglas Luiz in, like when we're making these deals for business's sake, for commercial reasons, to balance the books. It's like, I mean, hey, I know 50 million transfer to Juventus is hardly enough to get the violins out, but there's human beings involved in this, right? Douglas Luiz, I think he's played about 500 minutes of football this season. Just no goals, no assists. I think I'm right saying.
I think he's given away like 5 penalties as well.
Just hasn't seemed to enjoy his time at all. Hasn't been able to fit in. Links with moves away already. And so I mean, there's all sorts of stories coming out. There's been that kind of lingering story as well, mate, about JJ and the Harvey Barnes swap.
That can get rid of it.
Honestly to God, I will say this on this podcast. If I see Jacob Ramsey in a Newcastle shirt next season, that could be it for me in football. I dare not come back from that.
Amen.
Goodness me. I mean, there's a part of me that's like, at least Harvey Barnes couldn't score against us. But, oh my God. If I see, I mean Douglas Luiz, the one is Nottingham Forest, right? That's the rumor that's been going around. If next season Jacob Ramsey's at Newcastle, Douglas Luiz is playing for Nottingham Forest, that's curtains. It really is. Game gone. And so, but Emi Martinez, if he up sticks and is playing for Barcelona next season, what can you say?
It'd be like that. JJ and Dougie facing off against each other in Forest versus Newcastle. Would be like that Royce thing, Lewandowski clip with the "See You Again" blasting all over it.
Long way.
It's giving those vibes. No, I'm with you, mate. The difficult thing is we clearly have to sell, right? And when you look at the squads, I'm like, and we could probably do a whole podcast on this, and we probably will do in the off season, mate. But like, there's very few players that I am willing to part ways with, especially ones that command a high fee. And I do not want Emi to leave whatsoever. Like, do not get this twisted, guys. I do not want Emi to go, but I think the moment we include a academy graduate, local lad, fan who has supported the club all of his life in a swap deal for Harvey fucking Barnes, then the game's gone. The game's gone. Like,
100%.
I think that like the JJ's been dealt a bit of a shit hand with injuries. Like, I don't. Some people may disagree with me on this. I think JJ is arguably one of the most talented players in our squad, and I think his ceiling is so high. And the fact that every single window, Arsenal, Manchester City, Chelsea, all of these top clubs are continually linked with him, that should be enough to tell the maybe minority of the fan base that doesn't necessarily see it with JJ or is perhaps frustrated with the injuries, that this is a good player. And I can understand being frustrated with the injuries because I want to see more of JJ. But the fact that, I wouldn't let Morgan go, but I'd let Morgan go before I let JJ go, purely on the basis that he's one of our own, and that may be controversial, and I'm okay with that because I love the kid, I absolutely do. But we should probably do a podcast, mate, on like overhauling the squad. There's been the Joan Garcia talks. We're gonna have 25 players in the keep columns. We're not gonna sell anyone.
I'll take the fine. I'll take the fine. Deduct the points. I can't do it.
I can't do it. I'm sick. I'm sick of this. But
I mean, next season. But the vibes will be
sick, man. That's it. And and do you know what? Why don't we spend 100 million bringing Dougie back? Why don't we just really
together?
But they say steer into the steer.
Find anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I could, but the Leeds chairman is like, should we have spent so heavily in the past? Probably not. But we lived the dream. And that is the perfect note to end this podcast on, mate. Guys, let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Are we going to get Champions League football? What do you guys think? And who would you sell? Let us know. And like, comment, subscribe, and up the Villa.